Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm going to show you today how you can clear your acne naturally in 6 months or less without prescriptions or extreme dietary restrictions. I am a qualified nutritional therapist, naturopath, and mindset coach, and I specifically work with clients of women in their 20s, 30s, and also 40s who have acne. And I've been doing this for a few years now. So in this course today, what I want to walk you through is the exact 3-step method for clearing acne naturally in 6 months or less. This is a method that uses my mind, body, clear skin approach. And what we're going to be doing is talking about how I combine naturopathic root cause healing with subconscious confidence expansion so that you can really address the root causes of your acne, reprogram your subconscious mind, and really get to those results that you want, that I wanted when I had acne, and that might tell me all of the time that this is what they're really aiming for. Clear, healthy, glowing skin, this magnetic confidence and unshakable self-worth, clear skin days at the gym, Pilates, brunch, and even work. And this excitement and this enjoyment for your favorite foods without that added fear, right? We're sick of not being able to eat different foods, having to plan ahead with the menus, and having this feeling of dread whenever we're eating out because we have this fear of causing a new breakout. In this lesson today, what I'm going to be walking you through is the exact method of how we can clear the skin and overcome these things. What I've included here is a picture of my before and afters because I'm someone who struggled with acne on and off for over 10 years. Since I started puberty at 11, I had been breaking out. So acne is something that I know very well, and it is where my personal passion for specializing in this area actually comes from. So let me dive into that a bit further with you in terms of my background and my personal story. But before we dive into that, I really want to paint the picture of the reason why you're here, right? We really want to tap into your why and the desire that you want to get to. So close your eyes for a moment and really just imagine this. Imagine you sit down to do your makeup for work and you realize that you haven't had any new spots appear overnight. You feel your confidence expand as you get ready for the day in record time because your skin is getting clearer. For the first time in months, you're smiling in the mirror because you feel genuinely happy with how you look. That is exactly how I remember feeling when I realized that my skin was healing in the way that didn't need medication, that didn't need to be using harsh topicals, that didn't come with any side effects. But let me just fast forward a bit on my journey because my acne journey really started when I was a teenager. I started breaking out at the age of 11. Long story short, I went on to Accutane, I cleared my skin, and my adult acne actually started to come back from 2017. So I had acne from ages 11 all the way through to 16. My skin was clear from ages of 16 through to the age of 20. And that is really when my acne started to come back. And it got progressively worse over time. And it took me to a really bad place. I was feeling anxious. I isolated myself, staying inside. I would rush home from work and really just apply a face mask and leave it on for way too long. My skin barrier was so damaged. But if I wasn't wearing some sort of makeup to hide it, I wanted to have something on my skin to make me feel like I was actually doing something to help it. You know, the feeling of overusing skincare, cutting out loads of different foods, feeling like you have to stay in the house, not even wanting to answer the door. That is where I was at. But I was desperate to find a natural solution because I'd used Accutane in the past and it had worked for a few years, but unfortunately my acne came back, and it came back quite cystic, quite painful, very red, and it was just getting progressively worse. I wanted to clear my skin naturally, but I really started to feel like this was a myth. I was already vegan, I was cutting out loads of different foods, I was taking supplements, I was doing the skincare, and I literally had no idea what else could I possibly do. In 2018, I graduated at the age of 22 and I had acne, but it wasn't until 20, you have to think here, I had been trying for over 2 years to clear my skin naturally. And in 2019, I finally gave in and I used Accutane for the second time. And I didn't want to, but I also had this desperation that I really just wanted to clear my skin. And if you feel like that, you can relate to this, and I can relate to my clients who have been in the position of choosing to use medication. But for me and for so many different people, unfortunately, my acne came right back pretty much as soon as I stopped using the medication, which was it came back, but it wasn't presented the same way. Whereas before it was very red and cystic and very pus filled, deep spots. But now it was more surface, it was redder, it was itchier, and it was bumpier than before. And it was all over my cheeks and around my jawline. It was these small itchy bumps, and I would get a lot of red inflamed spots based on different foods I was eating. I had a lot of inflammation in my gut. I was reacting to so many different foods. I felt so deflated, but I had no idea what else to do. At this point, I was already studying to be a nutritional therapist. I was in the first year where we were really just learning about the body. We were learning a lot biomedicine and it was very science-based. So I wasn't actually learning anything about what to do to address the root cause. And deep down, I didn't even believe that this could be possible for me, because I had never seen it done before. And at that point, I wasn't hearing other people's stories. And if I did see people's before and after pictures on Instagram or social media, which wasn't really very often at this point in time, I would think to myself, they can do it, but how could that be me? I genuinely felt like I was the only person that this wouldn't work for. I felt like they could do it because maybe the acne wasn't as bad. Maybe they hadn't had it for as long. But for me, I was convinced like that couldn't happen. But alongside my studies, I decided it's not going to hurt to actually work with a naturopath. So I made the decision to work one-to-one with a naturopath, and this is where I actually found the solution. I started to understand firsthand what I was actually studying for, the outcome that you can get to with clients, the types of testing that you can do to really get incredible results. And I cleared my skin naturally within 8 months whilst working with this practitioner. I've actually been able to keep my skin clear since then. Yes, I get the odd breakout, the odd spot now and again, but majority of the time my skin has been clear. And I know how to keep it clear, right? I have that confidence. So in 2022, I qualified as a nutritional therapist, set up practice, and I've been working with my clients. And then earlier in 2025, I qualified as a naturopath as well as a mindset coach, because with acne, there is so much involved in the mindset and how we actually feel about our skin and our breakout. Not only that, but a pivotal part in my journey when I cleared my acne is the fact that I had to work on some deeper subconscious beliefs, right? The belief that this wasn't going to work for me, working with the nervous system and techniques that I use that I'm actually going to be explaining in this video, because we want to work with the physical body, but we also want to work with the subconscious mind. But this isn't fluffy. This is actually neuroscience. In terms of the foundations and the values and how I work, it took me more than 12 years of medication on and off before I was able to find this solution. And for you, I know that you're in a very similar boat. You have been looking for years and years trying to find a solution. You maybe use medication, or maybe you don't want to use it anymore and you want to find a solution that doesn't include those side effects. But if you have acne, I want you to know that it is a sign that something deeper is happening. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a diagnosable condition, for example, PCOS. There are so many different reasons for someone to have acne outside of a condition like that. And I don't want this to scare you. I want this to empower you that you now know that having acne is your body telling you something. And this is why when we get to the other side, we can look back and reflect and think, I'm so glad that my body was showing me that something wasn't quite right through my skin. Because if it was something like headaches now and again, or maybe period pains or bloating, which you may have all of those things as well, it's not going to give you that same drive, because you can handle those symptoms a lot better. Whereas with acne, it's very much on your skin. And though I wholeheartedly believe that you can feel confident and have acne and love yourself and have really strong sense of self-worth, it shouldn't dictate how you view yourself and how others view you. I also fully know and understand that you want clear skin, and it is not vain to want clear skin. It is actually your birthright. And when we think about this from like a health perspective, and we know that there's potentially something going on a bit deeper, then how could this possibly be vain? We are wanting to clear our skin for deeper reasons. Yes, right now you might feel like it would be a lot more convenient to be able to go to the gym, to work without makeup, which is your right to absolutely do that. But on a deeper level, you want to clear your skin because you want to show up better for your family members. You want to be able to share different foods and experiences. You want to not have to be worrying about your skin when someone is telling you an in-depth story. You want to be able to show up to work or your business and actually commit to it without having this fear that people are looking at you and judging you, right? You want to be able to give back, but your skin is unfortunately that block for you. And you might not even realize it at that point, and that is absolutely fine. But what this training is going to do is it's going to give you an alternative way to clear your skin without medications, without harsh topical prescriptions or extreme dietary restrictions. And this is not too good to be true. This can work for you too. You're not the only person that this won't work for, right? And I just want to remind you, because in this training, I am giving you so much value. This is more value than I've ever given in any free training before. And I typically give away a lot of value. And the reason that I want to give this away is because information is free. You can find information on Google, or I know that you're already using ChatGPT to find information. You're saving posts on Instagram, right? You are digging for the information. What you don't have is structure. So this course for free is going to give you the information. It's also going to give you the structure. I know that you also want support, guidance with implementation. You want personalized help and testing, and you don't want another one size fits all course. So at the end of this training today, I'm going to be walking you through my Clear Skin Complete program, because what that is then going to be able to give you is that one-on-one support that you haven't had before, guidance with the implementation, personalized help, because you also get testing with that. So I'm going to be walking you through what's included, why that's for you, and what you can expect. So many of you will be able to clear your skin from this training if you are taking notes, pulling out a pen or pulling up a Google Doc and just splitting your screen so that you can take notes, and you are going to commit to yourself that you're going to start implementing these. And by doing that, you're saying yes to your future self. But I need you to know that this method for clearing acne is not going to be for you if you are looking for a quick fix. If you feel like you just want your skin to be clear as soon as possible and that you're not willing to put in the work and make the changes with your nutrition and your lifestyle to get that result, I need you to know that there is going to be ups and downs when it comes to clearing acne. Clearing acne is not a linear journey, and you shouldn't expect to just start today and then magically see your skin improve over time. It's going to go like this. And there isn't a specific timeline for clearing acne. So the time frame that I typically give my clients is going to be 6 months. Some people it will be 3 months, and some people it may be longer. I always say for me, it took me 8 months. But for me, I was never going to just stop at 6 months because that's the timeline I'd said it had to be done in. I was never going to stop in 30 days or 3 months or 6 months. I committed to myself, I'm going to do this and I'm going to see this through to the end until my skin is clear for good. I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I'm going to work with a practitioner. I'm going to do the testing. I'm going to implement the techniques and the changes necessary to get the result that I want to do, regardless of how long it takes. And yes, this training is so that you can see results in 6 months or less, but that is just to let you know that there's going to be a percentage of people that is going to need deeper support, and it may take longer, and that is absolutely okay. Because you in 1 year from now could have absolutely transformed your skin, but if you remove that expectation now that it's only going to take you 30 days, then in a year you will see a difference. You're not going to be someone that's just going to quit at 30 days because you've not seen the results you expected to see. Commit to the process. That is who this training is for. Consistency is essential, and you need to put in the work and make that promise to yourself. If you feel like actually you're looking for a quick fix and this sounds like too much work, then feel free to click off now. This isn't the training for you. And for those that are still here, I'm so happy that you're here. So let's dive into it. The first thing I want to show you is 6 different skin lessons that it's going to take you to really learn and help you to feel more confident in the process of actually trying to clear your skin. And the first one is, like I mentioned before, healing is not linear. This is what you can expect versus what really happens, right? When it comes to healing the body, we are working with the body at a cellular level with our actual biology, right? So it's very unrealistic if you've had acne for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to expect your skin to then clear within 3 months. Because what we're doing is we are working literally at the deepest root causes, and we need to give your body time to actually respond. So a lot of the women that I work with have had acne for around 10 years, and giving 6 months is a really, really good amount of time. If you've had acne for slightly less than that, then it's likely that you could see results even quicker. We want to be aware that when it comes to clearing acne, you're probably expecting to go from this up to this and just to see gradual improvements every single day. While that would be nice, it's not what's going to happen. It's going to go like this. You're going to start out here frustrated with having acne, and then within a few weeks, you're going to see improvements, right? And then again, you're going to get a breakout and you're going to be frustrated and you're going to feel like giving up. But if you don't give up, your skin's going to clear again. However, you're probably going to get another breakout, right? And it's going to go like this until it stops going like this. You need to give it enough time, and there's going to be different symptoms that come to the surface when the body is healing. So this is really just to give you the information and really empower you in knowing that just because you've had a breakout whilst doing everything doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means you need to give it more time, okay? And if you haven't had a protocol that is suitable for you right now, it probably just is that you're not on the right protocol. But when you are on the right protocol, it's going to be a case of consistency and time. The second lesson is really understanding that the old way of clearing acne is broken. And I know that you already know this, and that is why you're here. We start out with harsh skincare for acne. Maybe if you were like me when I was a teenager, you're trying to use clean and clear, but my skin just did not like it. And then you go to the doctor and they prescribe you a topical antibiotic or maybe epiduo. At some point we graduate to antibiotics, and a lot of people stay with antibiotics and they will use multiple rounds of different kinds for years and years and years, or they will be put on the pill. And maybe the pill is where they will land, and they will stay on the pill for over a decade, maybe 2 decades, maybe 3 decades before they come off the pill. And actually it's the coming off the pill that's the problem again. Or if the pill isn't working, they'll get referred to the dermatologist, in which case they will go on Accutane, which will work, or maybe it didn't work. That is a conventional route for clearing the skin. I've been down it multiple times. But at some point we think, maybe the diet does have something to do with this. So then we start to Google and it tells us to cut out dairy, gluten, sugar. And at some point we start to gain this stress and this fear around food in the feeling that actually we are cutting out all of these foods. We've removed a lot of the enjoyment because we don't know what to replace those foods with to actually enjoy our meals. And it doesn't feel like it's working, yet we have this stress around food. Maybe we're relying on facials, spending a lot of money every single month. Or maybe we think that actually we do want to take a root cause approach. So we buy clear skin supplements, probiotics or greens powders, only to realize later on that they weren't the right supplements for us. Maybe they made our skin worse, or they didn't have the benefits that the reviews were showing. Lesson 3, if you're trying everything and not seeing results, it's going to mean one or two things. You don't have the right protocol for you. And in knowing that, we need to know that clearing acne has different layers. There's different tiers to clearing acne. So you're likely going to be on multiple protocols that build on top of each other when you are on the right one. If you aren't working with a practitioner and you've just been doing this yourself, it's likely that you're not on the right protocol for you. If you are working with a practitioner and you feel like you are actually trying everything but it's not working, you likely haven't been following it for long enough. Or you're having this difficult moment where it is working, but it looks like your skin has got worse, or maybe you're more fatigued, or maybe you have other symptoms coming to the surface, which is a natural progression in addressing the root causes. But it feels like you're doing everything, but it's not working. But actually, you just need to give it time and that consistency before you get to the other side. Lesson 4 is if your blood test results were normal, but you still have symptoms, it's because normal does not equal optimal. So if you've been to the GP and everything comes back within the normal ranges, there's nothing flagged, and you're trying to figure out like, well, why do I have this symptom? Then it's important to know that when the GP is doing testing and blood testing, they are looking at these test results within the normal ranges. And essentially they are just looking to see if there is anything to really diagnose you with, or if there's any medication that you are going to need, so that they can rule out what is seen as clinically significant. And if it is normal, that's actually a good thing because it means there's nothing there that needs to be diagnosed, but you still have symptoms because these are not the optimal results. So when I look at blood tests, I'm looking at it within the optimal ranges, which is a much narrower range, and it can show us a lot more. Lesson 5 is that reducing stress isn't just about taking days off work to sleep, although you still can and you still should. It's about regulating the nervous system and building resilience to the stress, even at a cellular level. So if right now you feel like you're someone who is stressed, but you can't necessarily take that stress off your plate, what you need to do is really create a routine with the nervous system regulation tools and work to build stress resilience by working on your body at the cellular level. So this is a lot with balancing minerals and really working on your mitochondrial health and working on your cellular health. And that is how your body is going to be able to become more resilient to the stress. And also there's different nutrients that really do help to regulate the nervous system. I'm going to be diving into that a bit deeper with you today, but I'm just telling you this now because we're told a lot online that acne is connected with stress, but when we have acne, it's driving more stress. So we're stressed and it creates acne, and then we have acne and it creates more stress, and it feels like we're in this vicious cycle that we can't get out of. Just because you're in that cycle doesn't mean that you are destined to have acne just because you feel like you need to break out of it. There's different techniques that we can use and different personalized supplementation based on your test results to help you regulate your nerve system and really build that stress resilience if you do have the commitment to do that. Because if you're completely honest with yourself, and this is a little bit of tough love, is there are going to be areas where you can control the stress in your life. You can control the amount of screen time you have. You can control when you go to bed most of the time. You can control if you check your phone in the morning. You can control how much food you're eating throughout the day, right? These are all things that are going to be adding more stress onto the body. And you can control if you give yourself an hour a few times per week to really work on regulating your nervous system. And that is going to be a big part of how I work with clients. So that is just a preface with you now that is something that I will be suggesting. Working alongside you to make sure that it works within your routine, but it's still something that we really can't overlook. And the reason for that is if we are in a state of fight or flight and in that stress response, the body isn't able to actually heal itself. So we have to get out of that stress response before things can really start kicking into action. That always has to be the first priority. And then lesson 6 is that clear skin doesn't equal confidence. But like I said before, you still deserve clear skin, but confidence is a decision, and you can feel confident within a few minutes. You can feel confident today. And there's different techniques I like to use to help build confidence whilst working with the subconscious mind. But essentially confidence is a decision. And just because you have clear skin, it does not mean that you will be confident. I know that a lot of people do feel more confident when they have clear skin. skin because suddenly a reason for them feeling really self-conscious has gone. But just because you have clear skin doesn't mean that you're going to feel confident getting up in front of your colleagues and giving a presentation. We can use the subconscious mind to feel confident straight away, or we can build confidence in other areas so that you can feel confident, you can feel strong, you can feel healthy whilst you are clearing your skin. Okay. I mentioned the nervous system, I mentioned the subconscious mind, as well as working on deeper root causes, because what I like to do with my approach is a mind, body, clear skin approach. And what this is combining naturopathic root cause healing with subconscious confidence expansion. We're clearing acne with a 3-tier approach. So we're using the mind and neuroscience and the connection with the subconscious mind to identify and shift limiting decisions and limiting beliefs. And I want to just highlight that mindset work isn't fluffy. It literally is neuroscience. What we're doing is, if you have any limiting beliefs, my skin will never clear, or I'm not worthy, even at a deeper level, you might not even be aware of them right now, which is absolutely okay, which is why they are subconscious. But this is something that's going to be important for us to work on, and it's a big chunk of how I work with clients. The second is your body. This is addressing the deeper imbalances and root causes to create an internal environment which allows the body to heal itself and therefore achieve clear skin free from acne. There's your physical root causes when we think about gut health, detoxification, hormones, your physical root causes, and probably the reason why you're here. And third, we have the skin. When we think about the skin, we really want to understand the skin as an organ and supporting this from the outside as well as the inside to reach the ultimate glowy glass skin. So what we use topically, repairing the skin barrier and building a nice diverse skin microbiome, is going to help support the skin from the topical level. But this isn't just about using the right skincare, though that is so important for you. Obviously there's 3 different tiers to this, so using skincare alone is never going to be enough. But when we look at it from this perspective, we can actually think about, why does a spot actually happen? What is clogging the pores? And why is the skin not necessarily resurfacing in the way that we want it to? And what is driving the inflammation? The skin is an organ. We want to look at the skin, but we want to dive deeper. And what we don't want to be doing is adding more fuel to the fire by clogging the pores every time we apply our products. Now I'm going to explain the CSC method. So inside the Clear Skin Complete, I use my mind, body, clear skin approach, but the actual method of how I work with clients and how I break things down step by step is my CSC method. And this is a 4-step method, but really it's kind of like that 3-step approach that I spoke about earlier on. So the first step is going to be realizing your root causes, because until we know what's actually driving the acne, there's going to be a lot of confusion. And one thing that I really like to do with my clients is, I'm big on explanations. I'm big on giving you the reasons why you're doing the things that you're doing. I understand that if you don't know why you are doing something, you're not going to have that same motivation and that drive to actually do the thing, especially if it's slightly difficult. So having the understanding is going to be really, really important. I like to empower my clients with the knowledge of what's happening within their bodies, because I know that you're asking the question. Education is one of my values. So realizing root causes, and then we move into reestablishing foundations. I say reestablishing because a lot of these things you've probably been dipping in and out of literally your entire life, or maybe this was perfect when you were a child and now as an adult you're not necessarily doing the foundations the way that I would suggest them. And then number 3 is rebalancing body systems. This is the 3-step approach, right? And then I've added number 4, which is retaining clear skin, because you can spend 6 months doing all of these different things, but if you don't know how to maintain clear skin, which routines to stick with, which supplements are going to be helping with your maintenance, because we don't necessarily want to be taking the same supplements all of the time, then you're going to have that fear that your acne is going to come back. I like to drive home this point that we want to be in our maintaining era, essentially. Clearing acne involves different layers, which are going to be followed step by step. This method has been built upon the order in which those layers need to be addressed. For some, the order may shift or overlap, but we cannot jump straight to hormones without addressing the nervous system, because we need to make sure that the body is feeling safe and that we have addressed any stress, that we're no longer in the fight or flight response before our hormones can move into balance. So this is layered, tiered, and step by step. Part 1 is realizing your root causes, essentially where you learn why the F you're still breaking out. And I've included this picture here because I have an analogy that I like to give my clients, which is, since we were born, we had this bucket of what we could tolerate. And when we were younger, we were potentially a bit better at things came in, and then the body was able to drain that bucket naturally because we had less stress. We had somebody else cooking our meals for us. We had a bedtime routine. We naturally we're just more resilient when we were younger. We had more minerals, more vitamins, and all of those. As we get older, and typically as we become a teenager, if we have had a history of antibiotic use, then potentially when we're a teenager and our hormones start to increase and we need some gut work, some liver support, then we can start to see the bucket overflow with more teenage acne. And if we don't have a way to drain that bucket, then the skin can just get worse and worse. And this is typically when we start to see skincare, topicals, medication, etc., to really suppress the acne. And And then maybe the skin is clear because we've been using medication, but we go to university and we start drinking alcohol and we start sleeping later and we start staying up all night doing our studying and we start skipping meals, eating more takeaways, right? This bucket is getting fuller and fuller. And in my case, I didn't do any of that when I was at university, but I was vegan. So I was severely depleted in nutrients needed to drain this bucket. So what we want to do now, knowing that your bucket is overflowing and you have symptoms showing up, is we want to be able to create drains in that bucket by addressing these root causes. We are draining that bucket, and then by maintaining the clear skin, we're making sure that there is a nice flow in that bucket. Yes, it's still going to fill up because of environmental toxins, because of birthday parties, because sometimes we just want to eat some chocolate because stress happens, right? But what we want to do is just make sure that we have routines, habits in place to be able to continuously drain that bucket. If you have a full stressful week, you are going to want to spend some time on a Sunday to fully unwind and support your nervous system. So on Monday, you are ready to go. If you don't do that, then the bucket is just going to keep filling, right? You haven't given yourself the time to drain the buckets. When we go through part one, there are really 3 different steps here. So the first one is going to be using a different form. And this is one that I like to use. It is a freebie. You can download this by sending me a DM on Instagram that says Roots, ROOTS. And then you'll be able to get access to this. And essentially it's assessing your symptoms and your lifestyle so that you are able to identify which of these top 9 root causes is your biggest driver for your acne. We also are going to be using functional testing and gathering data, as well as looking at your medical history, family medical history, and any past traumas that could be driving subconscious stress. And in terms of the top 9 root causes, the biggest one that I usually see is going to be this tired adrenals, poor stress resilience, and nervous system, which is really your kind of stress umbrella, right? So there's different reasons stress can be a driver for our acne. It's not always the case that we have a stressful moment, cortisol rises, and we get a breakout. That, I think, is an oversimplification of how stress is a driver for acne. The next one is blood sugar imbalances, which can be impacted by your nutrition, your stress, and your sleep, and also your gut health and your minerals because of how the cells are then responding to the insulin. We have poor drainage and detoxification, which is really related with your liver, but also some of the other systems such as the lymphatic system and such as your digestion and your gut health. But we also have gut health imbalances because there are specific imbalances that can be a driver for acne. We have overall inflammation, hormonal imbalances. Now with hormonal imbalances, there can be specific hormones out of balance that drive acne. And I know that you will have heard of testosterone as an example, but we always want to be looking underneath that to figure out what the root cause is of the hormonal imbalance. The root cause of the hormonal imbalance may or may not be a root cause for the acne specifically, but it is the root cause of the hormonal imbalance driving the acne, which is why hormonal imbalances can be the reason for acne, but they have their own root cause. We have nutrient imbalances and insufficiencies, which is a huge one that I see with acne, especially for people who have really poor skin cell turnover. We have topical and irritation acne, which is more so related to skincare. And then we have limiting beliefs and decisions, which can be a driver for the stress, and the not necessarily believing that our skin can clear is going to be a big driver for stress, which keeps us stuck in that loop. But not only that, it can drive some of the poor lifestyle habits that are keeping us stuck. So in terms of how we actually dive into understanding the root cause more deeply, I like to use functional testing. So with all my clients, I will go through a blood test and also a hair tissue mineral analysis. What I've included here is I have included all the different markers that I typically test in the blood. There's 47 different biomarkers here, and they go all the way from a full blood panel through to liver function tests, through to inflammation, vitamins as well. So there's quite a few different markers measured here, but essentially this just gives us a really good understanding of what can be happening in the body from a blood perspective. And in this one, what you'll see is there's a lot more markers tested here than a typical GP blood test would do, because it does include a few hormone markers as well as your HbA1c, but it also includes a few thyroid markers as well as full iron panel. And this is really important for acne because the way that we are storing iron can be a really big indication of if there's potentially an infection in the body. So I like to look at iron in the blood as well as iron in a hair tissue mineral analysis test, which is one of the reasons why I do both tests. So what a hair tissue mineral analysis test can show us is your metabolic type. It can show us how well your cells are responding to insulin, so your blood sugar response. It can show you if your sodium and potassium is low, then nothing is going to get in and out of your cells. So it shows us your vitality. It shows us how your thyroid is responding at a cellular level. It can show us your adrenal health and overall stress resilience. It can show us if you have a hidden infection, whether it's viral or bacterial, and a few other things such as if your stomach acid is low, if you're not necessarily breaking down proteins, fats, or carbohydrates. It shows us if you have levels of heavy metals and so much more. So I love to do both of these tests just to get a really good picture of pretty much kind of all of those root causes straight away. And when we look at that alongside your symptoms and your medical history, it gives us a lot more information. Now, if you are someone who has more significant symptoms such as pretty severe gut symptoms, at some point I may suggest a functional stool test, either a GI Effects in the UK or a GI 360 if you are not in the UK, to essentially assess bloating, gas, burping, abdominal pain, diarrhea, irregular bowel movements, or if you've previously had an IBS diagnosis. But it's also important to know that you might not have any gut symptoms, but it can be an indication that your gut health isn't in the best place. So for people who either need it or would like more information on their gut health, then that is an extra test that I do quite often. And then further down the line, after we have worked on a lot of these root causes, I will then suggest a Dutch test if we feel like potentially there is a need for it. This isn't going to be for everyone because as we work on the deeper root causes, hormones usually fall back into balance on their own. So those are just some bonus tests that I have as an extra cost, but within my programs, I always include the blood test and the hair tissue mineral analysis test. And we can also gather data, and this is some data that I highly suggest everyone start to collect because they're typically low cost if you have things like a smart device. Basal body temperature is going to be your measure of your thyroid health because it's a really good indication of metabolic health as well as your menstrual cycle regulation. So you can use basal body temperature as a way to track your cycle and get a better understanding of when your ovulation is. But if you're using it for fertility purposes, I always suggest looking into the fertility awareness method, reading the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility, and also using cervical fluid and cervical position as a way of using it for fertility reasons. You can use apps like Natural Cycles on the Oura Ring or the Apple Watch, or you can use a temp drop, or you can just use a basal thermometer to gather your basal body temperature. And I would immediately start doing this. The next thing is heart rate variability, which is shown on most smart devices, whether it's an Oura, Apple Watch, Garmin, or more. And this is going to be a measure of your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous systems. It's a measure of resilience to stress. And if this is too low, then that is an indication that you really need to take some necessary step to increase the heart rate variability number as a measure of being in your parasympathetic nervous system. So then we have a continuous glucose monitor. So I generally like to suggest the Lingo because it's got a lot more information on the app and it's for general consumers, or you can use a Freestyle Libre, which is designed for diabetics, but they do offer a 2-week free trial. But I suggest doing this for at least a month to get an indication of how your blood sugar changes based on your hormones and your monthly cycle. So this is going to show you how your blood sugar responds to food, sleep, stress, and hormonal changes. And this is really good because blood sugar and insulin not necessarily responding best in the body is quite often imbalance in those with acne. One of the things I see a lot is actually people eating or leaving way too long of a gap between meals. So this just gives us an indication of the specific time where you would then implement a snack. So these are 3 low-cost ways that you can start to measure different areas of your health that I would suggest doing as soon as possible. So now we have the information, we have the data, we know the areas that we want to be working on. And the way that I build out the CSE method is even if you didn't necessarily know everything that we've just gone through in part 1 and you didn't have that information, you didn't necessarily know your root cause, you can still follow this step by step and see improvements in your skin because the way that we work on acne is going to be tiered. I have done this in the way that we need to work on each of these steps in the way that the body will start to actually heal itself. But when we are looking at the foundations, this is where we build and maintain clear skin for good. We are building habits and routines that are going to help you maintain your clear skin. So we're going to start with your skincare and your products because I like to just get this out of the way straight away. You are probably stressed with the amount of Googling and searching you have been doing into dermatologists and trying to figure out the right skincare products. I immediately want you to start wasting money on skincare that you do not need. And when I tell you my skincare routine is so simple, I have actually included the example, which I'll go through with you in a moment. But the first thing you want to do is just simple identify your skin type. Is it oily, combination, sensitive, normal, dry? And do you have a condition? Is your skin dehydrated? Is your skin barrier damaged? From there, you want to check all of the products that you currently use on a daily basis and see if they have pore clogging ingredients and remove any product from your skincare, makeup, body care, or hair care to have no pore clogging ingredients. And, you know, some of them, they don't necessarily have to be like 0 pore clogging ingredients. There can be a couple depending on how your skin responds. If you have a product that you feel agrees with your skin, but it does have pore clogging ingredients in it, then you can keep it in for now. But my suggestion is it's best to get as many out as possible because you don't necessarily know what's adding fuel to the fire. barrier. And if we don't remove pore clogging ingredients, sometimes we can be working on all of the deeper imbalances, the mindset work, but the skin might not necessarily be improving in the way that we want it to, but it's because of the skincare products. Non-comedogenic often isn't enough, because non-comedogenic is typically a 2 or less on the comedogenic scale, whereas non-pore clogging would be a 0. Once you've done that, we want to be repairing the skin barrier. You've identified your skin type, you've now built a routine of products that don't have pore clogging ingredients in them, and you now come on to repairing the skin barrier if needed. We need this to be strong and healthy, so we want to make sure that we're not over exfoliating, we're not using too many chemical ingredients. If there is anything that says it is targeted and marketed towards acne, you want to check the ingredients list to see how many actives it has in it, because usually it will have something like salicylic acid, and then it might have bakuchiol, and then it might have azelaic acid or something else in there. But if you're using a salicylic acid cleanser and then a serum with azelaic acid and then another active on the evening, right, you're over exfoliating, and that's what we don't want. But once the skin barrier is repaired, we can optimize exfoliation. But I like to suggest using one product and only using it a few times per week until you build up that tolerance, and then you can increase the amount that you're using it. An example skincare routine for normal skin, this is my routine that I do at the moment. No morning cleanse, just water on a cotton wool pad, 2 layers of a essence. I use a pharmacy honey milk hydrating essence, and I do lymphatic drainage massage with that. I then apply a layer of the Purito Oat In Calming Gel Moisturizer, and then I top that off with SPF by Dr. Dennis Gross All Physical Ultimate Defense SPF 50+. That is an incredible mineral based SPF, and that's all I do in the morning. And then in the evening, I will remove my skincare or even makeup with the Inculus Hyaluronic Acid Cleanser. I don't double cleanse, but I will cleanse with the same product a few times, especially if I'm wearing makeup. I will then go in with the argan oil to remove my eye makeup. And if I want to do a chemical treatment, which I do most nights, I will use the Inculus Mandelic Acid. And then if I do physical exfoliation, I will use a white muslin cloth that I buy on Amazon. That is just to give you an example of how simple your skincare routine needs to be. And now that we've got that stress out of the way, we can then move into nutrition. The way that I break down nutrition is into 4 different parts, starting with the basics, because first of all, you need to know if you're eating enough. The average woman needs around 2,000 calories. And when you are in the second phase of your menstrual cycle, so the 3rd week and the 4th week before your period, you are going to need even more fuels. I always suggest working out your specific intake needs. This is just based on averages. Protein, an average for a goal weight of 140 pounds would be 98 to 140 grams of protein. Fats would average around 60 grams per day. Carbohydrates of a typical 2,000 calorie per day would be between 275 grams of carbohydrates. And then fiber is about 35 grams or more daily, right? So you can really start to see the averages here. And obviously what I suggest is always working out what your specific needs are based on your height, your age, your gender. But whilst we are recovering, clearing the skin, and when we have acne, there's quite a big connection with really depleted adrenals. You're in the repair phase, the recovery phase. We're repairing your metabolic health. So we just want to be giving the body everything that it needs, and we don't want to be trying to cut things out unnecessarily. So to build a balanced plate, you want to be looking at the plate and aiming for 1/3 of the plate of vegetables, at least 2 to 3 different ones, 1/3 of the plate of protein, 1/3 complex carbohydrate, and about a tablespoon of fats. That's going to be kind of like the average balanced plate that you would want to be aiming for. Once we have the basics down, then we want to be starting to optimize for blood sugar using the glucose monitor. So eating within 1 hour of waking, making sure you're having 3 balanced meals per day with 1 to 2 snacks in between if you're waiting more than 4 hours between meals, and then walking after meals if needed. Now, not everyone needs to do this, but if you are finding that your body isn't responding as well, even to balanced meals, then there's going to be other things you want to take into consideration. Next is eating anti-inflammatories. Acne is going to be an inflammatory condition. The inflammation that's systemic isn't always just driven by your nutrition. It's also driven by infections. Like there's other things going on, lack of sleep, circadian rhythm imbalances, but we don't want to be adding fuel to the fire. So increasing the foods which are anti-inflammatory and high in antioxidants is going to do wonders. So at least 2 portions of fruit daily, with 1 being berries. With vegetables, there's 6 different types of vegetables here: 1 leafy green, 2 cruciferous, and 3 rainbow vegetables. And then having oily fish 3 times per week for the omega-3s in there as a base. These are kind of like your foundational nutrition things that you want to be working on kind of from now. Obviously, it's more specific and in depth when I speak about it in my programs, but these are the basics. And then I also take a 4R 80-20 approach with my clients, which means before we remove anything, we are replenishing what is being missed. And the reason for this is my clients have typically been restricting for a very long time. What we need to do is just make sure that we are replenishing before we are removing anything. So we focus on replenishing missed nutrients, then we're replacing obvious triggers before reducing inflammatory food favorites. And then eventually, if there's anything that we want to remove, it's going to be what's blocking healing, which is things that trigger an obvious reaction. Next, we move into the nervous system. So this is my Regulate to Glow system. system, where we start by identifying what's causing the most stress, removing areas of stress within your control. And then what we can become aware of is the 7 types of rest and which rest your body actually needs. It might not be the physical rest, it might be mental or emotional rest. And knowing that is going to be really empowering. But at the basic level, you want to be aiming for 8 hours of sleep each night so that your body is able to recover. And if you are struggling to actually sleep, let's say you have good sleep hygiene habits, you're actually giving your body the opportunity to fall asleep by 10:30. So for example, if you are someone who is staying awake past midnight, but you're laying in bed scrolling on your phone, watching TV, you're actually not giving your body the opportunity to sleep, then I would say that you are the reason why the sleep isn't happening, right? You are the bottleneck in the quality sleep. However, there's going to be people who are trying to fall asleep by 10:30 and they are tossing and turning and the body just isn't letting them sleep, or you're waking up multiple times throughout the night. That is when we want to really think about specific lifestyle habits and specific supplementation to support sleep. Sleep is going to be one of those foundations. We've got to do that first and give your body the ability to actually be asleep by 10:30 p.m. so that your circadian rhythm can naturally move back into balance. And then we want to be increasing specific nutrients that the nervous system needs depending on what you are missing. And we can start to use different techniques to regulate the nervous system. And to give you a technique straight off the bat, emotional freedom technique tapping changed my life. And I teach this to all of my clients because it is so powerful for processing emotions as well as helping you to rewire your nervous system. And somatic movements are also really powerful, and being consistent with it because you have to start regulating your nervous system. And then finally, we are reducing cellular stress. And by doing this, we are making sure that the body is being replenished with what it needs. So like I said before, after the mineral test, I generally give my clients more personalized supplements with what their body needs, minerals and their vitamin cofactors so that they can absorb them. And we're working on different lifestyle factors to help the body become more resilient to stress. So regulation is having the tools to really work on the nervous system to really vibrate the vagus nerve, and then having stress resilience is what comes from using those regulation tools regularly and also reducing this cellular stress. So sometimes the body can't necessarily get the energy that it needs to because it is so many nutrients, it is literally depleted. So we support the cells, the mitochondria, energy increases, the body becomes more resilient to the stress, right? This gets quite complex, but this is an overview of how we're working with the nervous system, because you have to remember you cannot heal when you are stuck in a state of fight. And then we move into mindset. So for me, with like my clients, I like to do the nervous system first before we work on the mindset, because what we don't want to get stuck in is this feeling of being stuck in toxic positivity. That is not what I'm about. It's sometimes quite difficult to remind yourself that your skin is healing if you actually have physical rage or you are genuinely quite sad. We have to support the nervous system and process the emotion first. We're not pushing the emotion down, we are allowing it to come to the surface so that it can be felt. And then we're not sticking it in that negative emotion. We are allowing ourselves to shift out of it. But nervous system work is not fluffy. This is literally neuroscience. It's psychology. There's different parts within the brain that we essentially want to work with to allow our belief and our ability to heal is possible. So what I've done here is I've included a couple of YouTube videos. There is a guided chakra affirmation meditation and also a guided hypnosis. And what this hypnosis track is going to do is it's going to get you into a really, really calm state. And then once your brainwaves have shifted into a state where your subconscious mind is more accessible, and some positive affirmations into your mind about your ability to start to heal and clear your skin. And that is then going to move you into that mindset where you are now believing that clear skin is possible for you. And it's just going to make you a lot more motivated, because as you work through this process, there are going to be points where you feel like this is not working as quick as you want it to, or it feels pointless, or it feels difficult, but you're not necessarily getting the result from the work that you're putting in. And it's at that point where we need to really work with the mindset to almost like get us out of that funk. But it is so normal to feel like that. But what I like to do in my program is make sure that you have the tools that you need so that you can work to feel better during that time. That's one of the reasons why I trained as a mindset coach anyway, is because I was realizing that actually the tools are there, but what we need to do is make sure that we are still feeling okay as we go through this process. You're not going to be feeling perfect all of the time, and that is absolutely okay. And that's actually normal. And then finally, in the foundation, we want to be looking at your movement. Earning your movement is something that when I learned this, it really transformed the way that I viewed exercise, because I used to be someone that was waking up at 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m., going to the gym. Even when I was exhausted, I would still do those workouts. So I pushed myself because I wanted to hit a physique goal. Whereas now I think there is no physique goal that is worth being absolutely drained and burnt out for. Literally point blank period. We want to be supporting our adrenals and our longevity. Earn your movement, get your 8 hours of sleep, eat enough food, track your basal body temperature and your heart rate variability, and make sure that you feel the energy. Then your body is actually healthy and in a good place to go ahead and perform the hard workouts, right? And if those aren't necessarily in the best place, then this is why I like non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I really like walking, and we can also use the stairs, cleaning, gardening, dancing, throwing balls, etc. to really increase the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is your neat movement. This is the movement that you're doing outside of your typical workout. And it's something that I suggest because that is going to help build your longevity. I do also suggest strength training and weight training when you have the energy to do it. So if you don't have as much energy, obviously you just do a shorter workout with lighter weights. You wouldn't necessarily do anything high intensity or vigorous at that stage, but building the muscle and strength training is going to also help work on your metabolic health. So it is going to be really important. Just make sure that you are getting in these foundations so that you can then have the energy to perform your workouts. When it comes to cycle syncing movement, I do find that the way that it's spoken about online can be quite jarring, because what we're told to do is basically change the type of exercise that we're doing every single week to correspond with our cycle and how we should feel based on how hormone patterns are when they are balanced. I don't necessarily think that is very reasonable for most people. So I like to do things a little bit differently. I like to understand your exercise intensity in each phase. So when we think about the menstrual cycle, our metabolism is slower and our cortisol stress is lower in the first half of the cycles from the period up until ovulation. In the second half of the cycle, the cortisol is higher and the metabolism is faster, meaning we're going to need more food and we're going to hit our cortisol limits much quicker. So if we're having a stressful week at work, the last thing we want to do is a really heavy, intense workout. Whereas in the first half, we can eat typically less food, our general maintenance caloric intake, and we can handle a bit more a intense workout. However, if we are adrenally depleted and our stress is high and we're not getting enough sleep, you're probably not going to feel that peak in energy at any point during that month. That's why it can feel a bit confusing when we start cycle syncing. However, at the foundational level, this is how I like to do this. So I like to understand your exercise intensity based on your heart rate. Take the number 220 and subtract your age. Let's say we now know the max heart rate for a 30-year-old is going to be 190. You want to work out 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, and that is going to be the moderate intensity. Most people are going to land here for quite a long period of time during this healing process. And then 70 to 85% of your max heart rate is vigorous intensity. The general guidelines say about 1 hour and 15 minutes per week of vigorous intensity exercise. However, if you're using heart rate, you're probably going to be sticking more within the moderate. But what you don't want to be doing is the vigorous in that second half of your cycle. The vigorous can be in the first half and the moderate is going to be more so in the second half. And you can be in that moderate intensity just from walking a bit quicker. But like I said, I like to suggest training when you have the energy, and that is also going to be the moderate intensity. So that's just an overview of the movement and how you want to be looking at it at the moment. And I want to talk to you about one of my clients who, when she first came to me, she was breaking out on her cheeks and she was hiding behind her most of the time. She didn't necessarily know what to eat and she was eating more of a vegetarian diet. However, her skin started to actually clear very quickly within a 3-month period. She started to eat more balanced meals. She started to balance her blood sugar, and we really started to work with her nervous system, and her skin started to clear up so quickly. And she told me that she noticed that her skin was clearing because she was actually putting her hair behind her ears. Then over the 3 months following, she started to implement sort of more of these cycle syncing workouts, more walking outside, and just being more consistent with all of the things that she had learned within the program. The reason that I'm showing you this testimonial now is because if you follow everything I've just told you, you can actually see those results with your skin. And it's really incredible what these things can do when you are consistent. Now we are moving into part 3, which is rebalance root causes, where you address your deeper root causes and imbalances impacting your quality of life. And the first one is going to be with your energy, so your mitochondria, your metabolism, and your minerals. And to be honest, if you've done everything in the foundation section, at this point, your energy will have started to increase, and we would have really been working on that cellular stress already with the personalized supplementation from your test results. If you really want to start to support your energy, this is how I suggest getting in your baseline minerals, because so many people are depleted in these, especially if they are stressed. So 2 mineral mocktails per day, 1 cup of filtered water, 1 cup of coconut water, a pinch of sea salt, half an electrolyte sachet or half a teaspoon of an electrolyte, because the G&G electrolytes, it is in a bottle and you do it based on the juice of 1 lemon or lime. And 2 mocktails per day is going to get you 1,500 to almost 2,000 milligrams of potassium, 1,500 milligrams of sodium, and 100 milligrams of vitamin C, depending on the fruit the amount of vitamin C in the fruit. The reason that the potassium differs is based on whether you go with the IQ mix or the G&G total hydrate. But what you can see is that's going to get you very close to your daily intake of potassium. And we don't want to be overdoing it with supplementation. Most of the potassium is actually going to be coming from the coconut water, which is obviously a drink. The rest of it you want to get from food such as coconuts, mangoes, tomatoes, bananas, broccoli. You can get quite a lot of potassium just from fruits and root vegetables as well as other vegetables. But you really want to be hitting at least that baseline of potassium and sodium every single day, because those are minerals that you are going to be losing whilst you're stressed, as well as the vitamin C. Sodium is just going to be sea salt on all of your meals. And then other foods which are typically quite high in minerals are going to be bone broth, organ meats, seaweed, root vegetables, and fruits. This is a really great way to get your minerals up. The next thing is going to be your drainage. And when we think about drainage, we are thinking about lymphatic drainage. And though that is part of the drainage funnel, I just want to explain to you what the drainage funnel actually involves. Because to support drainage, typically we would use personalized supplementation. But when you go through the steps that I've just explained above, you'll already have been working on a few of these things. So the first thing is going to be your colon and your digestion. We have to be having healthy bowel movements every single day to get the waste out. If you aren't having a regular bowel movements, there is no point going any further. You have to work on your digestion and it has to be consistent. The next thing is going to be your liver and your bile ducts. Now, we don't necessarily work on the liver and the liver detoxification at this phase. We are more specifically working on the bile and the bile ducts and supporting the bile flow. So if you think about the phases of liver detoxification, you have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. This is going to be that phase 3, the end of the funnel, where we are working with the digestion and making sure that the bile is flowing effectively. After that, then we work on the lymphatic system. If you're someone and you've already been doing lymphatic drainage, but maybe you actually aren't regular with your bowel movements, your funnel is the wrong way around right now. And yes, you're helping the toxins move through the lymphatic system to be drained, but those toxins can't get out of the body. So it's not going to be having the benefit that you would want it to have, especially if you've been doing the face massage. We want to go back and work on your digestion. Let's say your digestion is healthy, continue with the lymphatic system. Just make sure that you are opening your drains first, right? We don't just want to be moving fluid around for the sake of moving fluid around. We want to be moving the fluid around to drain it, to get out of the body. So make sure you're doing that properly. The next is organs and tissues, which is the glymphatic system, which is your brain's detoxification system. If none of this is working optimally, then we can get symptoms such as brain fog, or if we're not sleeping effectively, the brain can't actually detoxify what it needs to. So we can end up with brain fog, poor concentration, we can feel a bit foggy, a bit tired. We have to do this in order. And then number 5 is your cells, which is your mitochondria, which is going to be continuously supported. If you have acne, there is a cellular issue. So we want to be supporting your cells consistently. The drainage funnel has got to be optimized in this order or it is going to get backed up. I'm telling you that now because I know so many people who have been researching acne and they've been told about the liver and the detoxification. Yes, this is true. Detoxification is the next thing that we want to work on. With detoxification, yes, most of this is going to be personalized supplementation. We want to be supporting phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification. And the best thing that you can do for yourself right now is to reduce the amount of toxins that you are using in your body. We want to reduce that toxic load, change your deodorant, change your sanitary product, stop using the perfume on your skin, change your detergent, change your cleaning products. Those are going to be the simplest way that you can reduce the burden on your liver. And then we want to make sure that we are providing the liver with what it needs to do its detoxification processes properly. Because yes, we have a liver and its job is to detoxify. However, the liver needs specific vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and other nutrients to actually perform its functions properly. If it is missing out on those things, it is not going to be able to do the job that it needs to do, in which case we're going to end up with extra toxins in the body. They are going to be coming through the skin. Working on phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification after we have reduced inflammation and worked on the drainage funnel first. And then once detoxification is all in a good place, that is when we work more on the gut health. Now, what I will say about gut health is, first of all, when we do a gut protocol, it's likely you will be using personalized supplementations based on your test results, symptoms, or medical history, not just taking a random probiotic. And we also want to be optimizing your nutrition and lifestyle first, which you have already done up to this point. So chewing your food, mindfully eating a diversity of different fibers, and really supporting your nervous system. Because when we go through the personalized gut protocol, we start with rebalancing, which is with your nervous system, your stress resilience, your sleep, and your mindset. You've already been doing that. Then we're optimizing your digestion so that your bowel movements are functioning optimally. You've already done that in the drainage module. So now the body is prepared and you are ready to be removing pathogens, parasites, and yeasts or other bacteria that we don't necessarily want there if needed. Not everyone needs to do this. So in order to actually remove these effectively, you probably will need certain supplements, but because when we are killing off parasites or we're killing off bacteria, they are going to be giving off different byproducts because they want to survive. we need to make sure that all detoxification pathways are open first. Otherwise, we can end up with toxic load that can't get out of the body. So there's an order to this. So we're removing the infections and obviously the inflammatory foods, which you've already done. We're balancing the gut microbiome afterwards with prebiotics, probiotics, and nutrition. Then we are healing the gut lining if there's any inflammation going on. And we're also supporting healthy motility, because a common condition in the gut that can drive acne is something called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which in the body can't necessarily sweep the small intestine the way that it needs to. So we need to support that motility to avoid any of the imbalances in the gut from returning, if that is something that is relevant to you. And at this stage, you probably don't know. I wouldn't guess. Please don't guess. But if you do have gut symptoms and you feel like you suspect that could be a driver of your acne, then that is when you want to get the personalized support and the testing so that you know for sure, and then go through a personalized protocol. It isn't going to be enough to just take a probiotic. It would be so good if it was. Unfortunately, it's not. And then finally, we work on the hormones. So remember, hormones have a deeper root cause, and by addressing the other elements laid out above, they can start moving back into balance, which is why not everyone needs to have hormone testing. To really help support the hormones, we can do personalized supplements from the test results, symptoms, and medical history. But I just want to talk you through the hormone hierarchy in terms of how hormones actually balance. So we have to start with the foundational hormones, which you've already been doing, improving your stress and reducing cortisol, balancing the insulin and supporting the way the body responds to insulin in the body, and oxytocin, which is the love hormone. Next, we have the precursors and the regulators, which is pregnenolone and DHEA. And then finally, we have the target hormones, which are the thyroid hormones, melatonin, which is a sleep hormone, and then the reproductive hormones, progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. So what you can see here is if you just go in and start drinking spearmint tea to try and balance your testosterone, that isn't addressing the root cause of why testosterone could potentially be high in the first place, which might not even be a hormone imbalance for you. And then we also have cycle tracking and syncing. So we already spoke about basal body temperature before, but getting to know your cycle is going to be really beneficial for you to get a good indication of what actually is happening with your hormones. It is incredibly empowering to take back that control of your cycle. And then understanding what a healthy period actually is, because your period is your monthly report card, and it can give you signs of what happened last month or even what happened up to 3 months ago. Here are two of my different clients who needed to work on some of their deeper root causes and imbalances to actually get the clear skin that they wanted. Starting with this client here, who's now feeling more at peace with her life, with her fresh and glowing skin, and she has regained her confidence. And one of the big things that we had to work on together was really working on the detoxification and also really balancing out her minerals so that her body could move those hormones back into balance. And with my other client here, we had to do a lot of work with her gut microbiome so that she could stop breaking out and getting more of this dermatitis style of redness around her mouth. And when we did this, we can see that the results are really incredible. So there is power staying consistent, addressing the root causes, and really getting into what is happening underneath the surface and following this method step by step. Obviously, there is a method because the body heals in a very specific way, but there is a lot of personalization that goes into this, which is why I am such a big advocate for getting the testing and working with a practitioner who knows what they're doing, so that you're following protocols proven to work and you're having that one-to-one support in between, right? After that, we have your step 4, which is all about retaining and maintaining clear skin, because clearing acne is great, but maintaining it is better for the long term. And clearing acne for good doesn't necessarily mean that you'll never get a spot. It just means that you are now empowered to know how to keep your skin clear with your routines, your habits. And if you do get a flare up, you know what to do about it. You know what to return to with your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, your skincare, your digestion, your lymphatic flow, your detoxification, so that you can keep coming back to, like I said earlier, emptying that bucket and making sure that it can be drained so that you can keep your skin clear. And I just want to show you my skin here, because this is where my skin started, and then after 8 months we were clear. But that's only one part of the picture, right? That last result that you get is one thing. I just want to show you that this is my skin 6 years later, still clear. I think one of these pictures has flipped because I do have a birthmark on my right side. However, you can still see that my skin is still clear, and in fact I don't really have any signs of aging. And that's another thing when we are working with the root cause and we are using hydrating skincare products, protecting our skin barrier, optimizing exfoliation from a topical perspective, but also working with the body on an internal perspective, eating the foods, drinking green tea every single day for like 15 years, getting the antioxidants in. We are preventing premature aging, right? It's not about anti-age, it's about healthy aging. If you have found this free training better than most paid courses, imagine what the actual Clear Skin Complete program is like. I've helped over 50 women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s regain confidence in their skin by addressing their root causes and building sustainable habits, routines they can stick to. So if you're still here, then I'm sure that you're ready for more specific information about the program and what's included. And I've included a couple more testimonials here so that you can really see how not only from a physical perspective the skin clears, but it's also your energy. You become less irritable, your relationships improve, you feel more confident in yourself, your energy is better, your moods are better, right? It's about not necessarily feeling wobbly or insecure or stressed when a random spot pops up. It's about loving yourself regardless of how your skin looks, but still knowing what to do to make yourself look its absolute best. I want to talk you through the Clear Skin Complete program, right? Because like I said before, information is free. And I know that you've already downloaded the guides, you've watched the courses, you've binged the YouTube videos, and you want the structure and the one-to-one support for the accountability and the implementation. You want something personalized, but not generic. So this is what's inside the Clear Skin Complete program. So before I go through the details, I just want you to imagine what it would be like to feel confident going makeup free to work, to the gym, Pilates classes, Sunday brunch. Getting ready takes you 15 minutes because you've binned your foundation. You finally understand exactly why you have acne. No more Googling symptoms at midnight, feeling your chest tighten, and just getting generic answers thinking you're already doing this. You can easily schedule social plans and go out to eat with friends and order whatever you want without feeling guilty about causing a new breakouts. You're no longer just relying on your safe foods. You're walking into your exercise class makeup free and confident, fully present, making eye contact, and no longer holding back because you feel insecure that someone is looking at your skin. You celebrate special occasions without hesitation, enjoying the birthday cake and the desserts, and you walk into the room feeling confident and magnetic, knowing that people see you and not just your skin. You're no longer hiding behind your hair, your hand, or avoiding eye contact, right? All of this is 100% possible for you. I've already shown you a lot of the steps you can take to clear your skin. Hopefully you will have seen just how different some of this advice is compared to what you can Google or ChatGPT or find on social media. So imagine how good this program actually. This is my 6-month program dedicated entirely to you and your clear skin goals. And this is what you can expect inside. The first thing that you get inside Clear Skin Complete is going to be bespoke one-to-one support. So you get the complimentary hair tissue mineral analysis test, a full functional blood test, a 90-minute one-to-one consultation call with me where we can dive into your test results, and a personalized naturopathic nutrition plan with your root cause analysis so that you can start addressing your root causes straight away. You get full access to the program, 12 months access to the 12-module curriculum, which I'll show you in a moment, evidence-based protocols, 6 months of bi-weekly live group Q&A calls where you can get your questions answered and feel supported, and you get 6 months of group chat access where you can get any questions answered and receive high level support. You also get one-to-one chat access as well. And you get bonuses, you get recipes, shopping lists, meal planners. You also have a vault of guided meditation so you can rewire your subconscious mind, regulate your nervous system, and really start to feel yourself becoming more confident straight away. You get the naturopathic liver flush, right? This is a full and in-depth naturopathic liver flush using traditional naturopathic principles. So you can do this every 3 or even 6 months. I did a lot of market research to price this product, and that is why there is a payment plan of 7 payments of £147. If you do pay in full, you have the opportunity of gaining the bonus 60-minute one-to-one subconscious reprogramming mindset coaching call, which is such an incredible bonus. But not only that, if you are someone who maybe wants a bit more one-to-one support and accountability, you have the option of the Advanced Clear Skin Complete program, which has everything that has been included above, plus 3 additional 60-minute one-to-one calls. The first call is all around the nervous system and your mindset and subconscious reprogramming. The second focuses on your gut health. And the third one is going to be focused on balancing your hormones. You get your personalized protocol based on what we have spoken about in the call. And you also have access to other functional tests such as the stool test or the hormone test or any other retests of any additional costs. These do come at an additional price, but you will need the one-to-one calls to be able to access these tests. And with this program and everything included, the full price is $1,799, or you can do 7 monthly payments of $297. And again, if you pay, you get the incredible bonus of a 60-minute one-to-one subconscious reprogramming and mindset coaching call so that you can start really working through your limiting decisions and beliefs with that one-to-one guidance. So this is an incredible program. I've done so much market research and gathering so much feedback to really build this program, not only putting together the proven protocols based on working with clients for the past few years. So now I'm going to show you what the portal looks like and what you can expect once you're inside. This is the Clear Skin Complete portal, and what you can see is as soon as you jump in, you have very specific instructions to get started with the portal tour, important links, and booking your onboarding call so that you can get started straight away. So as soon as you jump in, you will get onboarding call booked in so that you know exactly how to navigate the portal and you know where everything is and you know what to expect in terms of your root cause consultation, sending back your hair samples, and getting fully prepared within this program. And then you have each module broken down very specifically into short bite-sized videos so that you can set aside a couple of hours every week and work through everything in the correct order that it has been intended to. You have skincare products, you have your nutrition, you have your nervous system, all of the meditations, you have your mindset. And what you can see here is you have really specific techniques from neural energetic encoding all the way through mental rehearsal meditations, all the way through to anchoring, to hypnosis tracks, which are very specific techniques to rewire your subconscious mind. And this is quite a big module because you're working through your mind, you're becoming aware of your limiting beliefs, rewiring those beliefs, visualizing your highest self, as well as starting to really shift your internal narrative and how you are speaking to yourself so that you can build really strong sense of self-love and worthiness. We have your movement, and what's great about this is you also have 4 specific yoga flows based on each phase of your cycle created by a hormone expert. And then we move into the rebalance phase where we are walking through your energy, your drainage with the actual specific scientific information about each phase of the drainage funnel, as well as deep information about your detoxification. We also have gut health and how you can really start to really build strong gut health. And then all the information about your hormones, from cycle syncing in the way that I usually work with it, your period, natural contraception, and specific hormones that relate to different breakouts. And then finally, we have the retaining section where you get specific instructions of what happens after the program. We will have an offboarding call and I will be gathering feedback from you so that you are very clear on how you are going to progress after completing and graduating the program. You also have the bonus guest interviews you can listen to podcast style and the live call recordings vault. And I also want to show you a template example of what the naturopathic nutrition plans look like, because as you can see, everything is broken down week on week so that you know exactly what you're doing every single week, so that you're not feeling overwhelmed. You have specific instructions. And because this is going to be personalized, you have your test result analysis, your root cause analysis, and your personalized protocol laid out as well. And whilst you are in the onboarding phases, you also have specific checklists so you know exactly what you're doing whilst you are waiting for your test results to come back from the lab. So that is the program broken down for you. Obviously, we also have the live group coaching calls and the group chat where you will gain the one-to-one support. But I wanted to be really clear in terms of what's included and what you can expect from the program. This really is an incredible program. If you are wanting to jump right in today, then I would suggest scrolling to the bottom of this page where you will see the button that says apply now, where you can fill out an application form where I will be reading through all of your answers and making sure that you are the perfect fit for this program, because I'm only going to be letting in people who are the best fit, who I feel will fit in nicely with the other people already inside this incredible program. And you also have the option to book in a 30-minute free discovery call with me where we will be going through all of your symptoms and what you have been trying to help with your acne. We will be going through your goals and your desires and where you want to get to, and I will be walking you through what I will be suggesting to you in terms of how you can start clearing your skin and putting together a plan of action straight away. I hope you have loved this, and I cannot wait to see your application form and speak to you soon.